Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, John here, coming at you at another wonderful week of preseason. Yes?
Yeah.
No?
It's the start of.
I don't think so.
It counts for that, at least.
Does it, John? It feels just more angst. Angst, I guess, is a good way to put it right now. I think I'm feeling. How are you doing, though, my friend? How was your weekend?
I'm good. I'm trying for a Spindrift sponsorship. I've stopped drinking soda so much. So Spindrift is my new thing. So if you're watching, if there's some sort of algorithm that combs Twitch live streams, get in contact. I'm good, man. My weekend was, I bet, as good as it can be. I think in this universe, not a lot of great news on the DC United front or on that side. But I think certainly we've got a lot to talk about, which is something I didn't think I would say on Thursday.
Yeah. I think things went weird. Let's just say that for DC United. Let's get right into it. Let's get into the big story. I think the biggest story. Oh, John, I think we had some things we wanted to drop or plug, or was that for someone else?
No, it's for someone else. We can just say, hey, if you're watching and you want to subscribe to us with your Prime sub for Twitch, please do so. SMC Ultra, thanks for the sub this month. It is an easy way for you to give us free money and to support the show, which we love. We're also I almost spilled the beans about what we're going to announce next week. I didn't do. It would be helpful. It would be helpful to support the show, but the amount of work that's going to change, at least on my plate, starting next week. So please show you listen to the show and like us by subbing on Twitch. Or also make sure that you not like and subscribe. Rate our show on iTunes. Rate our show on Spotify, which is a thing you can do now. And tell your friends about us. That's the things you can always do. And Patrick McGill, I am wearing a Loudoun United jersey for all the Loudoun fans out there. They're having some good news. I feel like they're having a decent couple days. I guess. I mean, there's some news. They had an open tryout in 5-degree weather. That's not great, but we didn't have to do it.
Fun.
So,
well, speaking of weather that is not where it is not 5 degrees. At least I don't think. I don't know. I don't know the climate of Mexico City. I probably should research that.
Warmer
Paul Arriola,
warmer than here, probably.
Yeah, certainly warmer than here. Paul Arriola is apparently might not be a DC United player next year after all. Well, let's start with so I guess news broke coming out of Mexico, I believe Tom Bogart sort of dropped the news that Club America is indeed looking to sign Paul Arriola. First the news was, well, it was kind of touch and go. Who knows? Maybe they're interested, but DC is interested in selling.
It was also, I think it was also the Galaxy and Cholos too at the start. So It's been a lot. Now it is Club America.
Yeah, now it's Club America, and I think like me, we were all disappointed. I guess you could say, because we certainly this team now needs a designated player slot to fill. But we're like, okay, well, I mean, I kind of landed on, well, if Club America's calling and you want to drop and they're willing to pay $5 to $6 million for Paul, then you kind of have to say yes at that point. That was what I originally thought. Then things turned sour. Well, John, give me your first impressions. You maybe have a different opinion.
No, I think
this.
I think we were in the same spot in that in a perfect world, he is healthy, happy, motivated, wants to play for DC United, and we have multiple designated players at one time healthy and playing for more than 10 minutes, which is what we had in the year 2021. But yeah, I think if you were going to sell them and do well and make a good profit on it, that's what you do when you're DC United and not a team with infinite resources. However, like we're about to get into, the rumored structure of this deal is not a thing that benefits DC United in almost any way.
Yeah, it really. We'll get into it. Let's talk about it. So rumors coming out of, I forget the person who dropped this rumor, basically turned this thing pretty much to, well, at least they're getting some money for it, to, oh dear Lord, this could be disastrous. And this is basically, the deal is now looking like a 1-year loan with an option to buy. So basically DC United assumes all the risk here. They hold the contract. They have very little say in whether they get the actual buy fee for Paul Arriola. Paul has to go in and prove he can play in the Liga MX,
which he did not do on his last loan. So his recent record on staying healthy and proving worth on last loan was not good.
Well, Swansea's a different situation, I guess, than Club America. It's a very different thing. He is very comfortable. That's where he made his name, was in Liga MX. So he's certainly someone who's very comfortable in the league, who's had success in the league. But the 1 year loan definitely speaks not a good deal for DC. This definitely, I truly do believe that this team is petrified of another Luciano Acosta situation. That's what this feels like. Do right by the player. Club America just becomes interested. Obviously, Paul wants to join. There was some people saying, I think, across DC United circles, that it's a situation where maybe you want to be with a club, you want to get playing time. His playing time is ultimately going to be reduced with Club America. They are the richest club in Mexico. But I think this has a different move for Paul. I think this is really his last opportunity, I think he feels, to get to a bigger club, keep himself in that national team picture, push himself. There's a lot of players out there in the winger position for the U.S. men's national team that are playing in Europe and getting starting minutes in Europe. So he's definitely slipped down the totem pole, and I think this is his chance. He sees this as an opportunity to push himself back onto that forefront. I'm gonna laugh if everybody starts praising him after all this.
They for sure will. And we talked about not wanting to have another Acosta situation. Here's the difference. I feel like Paul just signed a new contract. He's got 2 years still under contract, so they are bending over backwards to accommodate Paul's desire to move here. My view on doing right by the player is to ask the agent, go find us a deal for this amount of money. Go wherever you need to go. Talk to whoever you need to talk to. If he wants to go, we'll work on that. But this is barely a deal. This gets him to where all this does is give Paul exactly what he wants. It gives the team maybe something that they want in the future. But the biggest problem is they opened training camp today. Did they know that Paul wanted to go? I'm sure. All offseason, I'm sure his agent and he have been talking to DC United to say, I think my future lies away from here. I'd like to move, and I'm sure, and we'll talk about this sort of the folly with DC United sort of tight-lipped communication style. They're surely they were trying to find out a replacement for him, but this to me is the worst version of what that could be. They have done everything for the player and nothing for the team, nothing for the fans. It's a dice roll for a team that can't afford a dice roll, particularly when the other designated player is Edison Flores and has had some issues right now.
Which we'll get into. I think it has to be, I hope it has to be a tough spot. I hope this isn't there's a lot that I think can be fixed if this team were to communicate more with their fan base. You know what? Let's get into it, because I think this is linked here, and ultimately
one thing before we move on. If Paul does get loaned and not replaced immediately because for whatever reason they weren't able to get the player they wanted in, does this open the door for Griffin Yao, who has not shown himself to be a favorite of Aaron Losada? He only played 11 times in 2020. He only played 11 times in 2021, exactly the same, which is interesting. Had one really good game. The one really good game he had last year was the 30-minute cameo against Toronto when they won 7-1. But Griffin and Paul have a good relationship. Griffin was posting stuff on Instagram about Paul on his story recently, and I think that Paul sees himself a little bit in Griffin. And I'm wondering, do you think, worst case scenario where he's not replaced and Paul goes on loan, do you think Griffin can fill that spot, or do you think Julian Gressel moves from right wing back up to the wing?
I think really it's difficult to say, because we don't know, because this team is going to sign players. Yep. They are going to bring players in. Any idea that they are going to sit and not sign anybody, the quality of those signings is obviously up for debate. What types of players are they going to bring in? They've been very quiet this offseason. Are they working on something behind the scenes? Golf has basically been saying it's been a pretty quiet off season. And that's coming from him, some guy who's really close to the club. Is he getting all the information he used to do? I think it's really hard for the fans, people like me. I know signings are coming. I don't know what the quality of those signings are coming. And yes, I am getting nervous. I am trying to check myself and say, it's still January. This team still theoretically has time. Things can develop very, very quickly. We don't know who they're scouting. We don't know who they're going to bring in. But I think this is a huge problem, for the fans, is that, Dave Casper, Lucy Rushton, Hernan Losada have basically been basically missing in action. No interviews with any players, with any reporters
or podcasts.
I think some players have been or podcasts.
No interviews with podcasts either. Just
some players have been made available. I think the only story that's really come out has been from Stephen Goff talking about the improved training, of which, by the way, coaching staff and everybody else didn't want to comment on. So it's been, as MC Ultra says, come to the TED, come to the dark stuff, and start tweeting rage tweeting. I refuse to join that group. That is just something I don't like to join. Maybe it's because I don't. Everybody's, I think, trying to draw a lot of things that, and again, it comes down to the fact that the team is not communicating. I really wish you look at what Inter Miami did. I think Inter Miami had a whole YouTube live show. Now they are a mess of an organization. They are digging themselves deep.
That is why they're doing this too, by the way, Ted.
Yeah, true. But I still feel like there are other teams out there that make their GMs available, that at least give the fans an idea of what they're planning, what their vision is, what they're in. If the idea, even if it's just Dave Casper at the Super Draft saying, "Look, we're working on some signings. We expect to announce them in the next few weeks, right now, but we've got to keep a tight lid." That's a significant improvement from what we're getting, which is nothing. I think the only thing I've seen, Stuart Mears may have dropped a comment saying, "Oh, we'll be really good once we get a couple of these signings in." The only indication I saw, and I think that came from a Post article, saying, but I've
heard from team staff that they're anticipating a bunch of signings too. So
yeah,
take that for its worth. I mean, like you said, Ted, they're not going to go into the season with 21 players. Players are coming in. We'll see who they are, and that is, that's important. But so to your point, communication's important. It doesn't cost you anything. I don't think you get a benefit from sort of moving in silence, particularly when you're looking at players that no one knows or has heard of before. So it's not like you're gonna pip yourself. Like, you're not gonna screw up your own deal by. I think I said on Twitter today, it's not like if in 2021 they were like, we're looking at a hot striker from Bulgaria. You'll know who he is when he signs. Like, that won't happen. That's not not where we play. But I mentioned Paul leaving a big hole for us potentially because of our designated player situation. Edison Flores, a player that we have talked about ad nauseum, a player who I would say 75% of DC United, at least the online component, would like him to go away, would think he was a disappointment, would think that we should move on from him if possible. Played for Peru against Panama last night, 2 nights ago, and got hurt his right knee. Played 69 minutes. Just a quick from his performance perspective, played 69 minutes, 72% passing rate, 1 chance created, won 3 duels, lost 6, 6.5 foot mob rating, and then hurt himself. Knee to knee was mooted from someone who watched the game, but he's having an MRI and returning to DC now. In an interview, he said he didn't think it was serious, and he thought that his performance was bad because he hasn't played for 3 months, which, sure, that's probably true.
When you have a player who's been as injury prone as he is, I do think there is a precautionary element to it. And I think as soon as he says, and even for the player is like, this is really, we talked about last year being the year that Flores needs to prove himself. This year is DEFCON 5. You need to show something.
It's year -1.
And everybody, a lot of people talk about, maybe he's not that good. He played really well for Morelia. I hedge to bet he hasn't shown well in the situations, I guess, that he's been there. But to be fair, he hasn't really had much of an opportunity
because he's not on the
field.
Yeah,
because he's not on the field. So he needs to be on the field this year. I hope this isn't serious. I hope this is like 1 or 2 weeks tightness, and then he's back and healthy, first of all. I guess I was more curious. Okay, now Losada's got his little treatment thing in there. They're going to be monitoring fitness. Maybe he'll come in and he'll be sharper. And that doesn't look good when you come in and kind of play a little lost. You can't replicate game experience, but maybe you expect a little bit more from Flores.
Yeah,
and from this treatment regimen.
Check that article if you haven't seen it yet in the Washington Post that talked about what the players are being expected to do over the offseason. They're using some sort of watch. I don't think it sounds like not a consumer product. It sounds like something else to record what they're doing, and they get a call on their phone if they didn't do their workout. So, they went today for physicals and check-in at the new facility in Loudoun. I am hoping we got no content around that today, which was strange to me. Like nothing from Twitter, nothing from anywhere. That was weird. So I assume maybe tomorrow we'll get that stuff. But Edison Flores coming back to DC to get checked out. He thinks he'll be on the bench against Columbia, I think, next week. I hope not.
I hope DC is like nope.
I think Edison just hang out, man. Get checked in, rest that knee. You need to play. DC United has made one signing, so to speak, in the last couple weeks. Ted DiPietro, a player from Loudoun United, an academy player, signed with DC United last week. We had an interview with him before the season last year. He has made big strides. Last year was his breakout season. Really, sort of, he made a comment that he's a little bit older than the other players that signed. Jacob Green, he's older than. Some of the other players, he's older than. Jeremy Gray, I think he's older than. 30 appearances last year, 7 goals, 3 assists. He plays centrally. He said that a number 10 was his favorite role. He probably won't play that here because we don't really do that so much. But he can play on the wing. And the question is he a DC United player? Is he a Loudoun player? It's possible that he plays for DC United, but I would imagine they're going to check him out this week and next week. Hernan said he's going to figure out where he fits. It's more important to me. I look at Griffin Yao as the cautionary tale, right? He's played 11 times the last 2 years. His development has stagnated, I think potentially because of that. I don't want to see Ted's season last year go into him just being put on ice this year with 5 appearances. I don't think that's better for him, particularly now that everyone is training in the same place in Loudoun. Keep everyone there. Keep Ted, let him train with the first team throughout the week, and then put him in Loudoun on the weekends. He needs to play games. They all need to play games. There's enough slots now that you can do that. But how do you feel about a player like this being signed? What does it say to you about sort of their approach going into the season and sort of in the future?
It's the one positive thing because it does show a tangible benefit to having Loudoun United exist as a team. Even when they were terrible, bottom of the USL Championship, Ted Koo was one of the best players in the league. He elevated that team. It's great for him. I think it's great for him to get the start. I'm a little more positive. Griffin showed well, but Griffin was still, even in Loudoun, it was in spurts. It was like
he was not dominant there the way Ted was last year at any point.
Yeah. He would explode with a couple great goals, a couple great games, but he was never consistent. Ted Koo was consistent this year, which gives me more hope that he can make that next step up. I'll be very excited if we can watch preseason games, when we see him in preseason. I'm hopeful they've widened that radius this year because they did that for the game. Another player also rumored to come in, Hayden Sargis. Center back, 19 years old, rumored to be signing. Kind of the first. It was almost like I feel like either Stephen Goff or somebody reached out to Steven and said, "Hey, leak this guy, leak somebody, give him a little bit of something." Maybe that's coming for something else.
This is a promising signing if it happens. Just to give you a little background on him. 30 starts last year for Sacramento Republic. Their defense, middle of the pack last year. They've not been as good as they were a few years ago. I think the MLS chase has sort of taken their eye off the ball as far as their effectiveness, but he was excellent. second on the team in clearances, 8 block shots, won 50% of his duels, signed out of their academy, and was the young player of the year for all of USL in 2020. So I think Ted and I were talking about this, I think maybe in the Discord, that to me, this says young player to replace Frederick Briant. Donovan Pines maybe slides up one on the depth chart. He starts getting those minutes that Frederick would have had earlier. Maybe not. Last year he was sort of put on ice, but maybe that means Pines is sort of like the third rotational guy. I think that'd be great. I think that really helps his development. This is a make or break year for him. And then we get this guy in who can sort of pivot, maybe between here and Loudoun to stay fresh. That's always our hope. I bring up the Loudoun stay fresh thing every year, and they never do it. And there are always, because they need bodies, right? They need to have available bodies. But 19 years old, making a step up, I think it's great. I think that's a good signing for DC United.
Yeah.
Rumored signing anyway.
Rumored signing, and if it does happen, I think it provides some good depth at that center back position. I think you can effectively say the center back position is set. Also, Pablo Maurer dropping that Andy Nahar has joined the team, and apparently still in discussions to maybe get a little bit more money out of his contract situation. So very good to see that the team at least recognizes that. So again, there's little nuggets of positivity in the tsunami of bad that has been
him holding out
this past week.
Him holding out would have been the cherry on top of my horrible Sunday. Other sort of player personnel news. There's a tweet that came out today about Felipe potentially joining FC Cincinnati. DC United supposedly still in the hunt. But their sources close to the team and certain locations have said that it's like FC Cincinnati is very close to being done. That makes sense from it makes sense from a Cincinnati need perspective. And I think Felipe walks into that team. Probably they don't have any 6s or 8s. I was talking to someone from Cincinnati Soccer Talk this morning, and they were talking about sort of their needs. So that's a great move for him. I think it makes more sense than it does here, probably, based on what he's looking for. But good luck to Felipe if that happens.
It does almost feel like the signings they're making. If this is why, I mean, I look at the signing of Hayden, and I say that kind of seems like a Moneyball analytics type signing for DC. So it definitely seems like it could be something good for the team to maybe dip into that a little bit. And I think, if they want to be that route, that's fine. They need to communicate that. If they want to say, look, we're going to, make some signings. We think there is a market inefficiency in the USL or in lower division soccer that we can take advantage of and bring guys in. We think we can really build our academy. That's great. Communicate that. Tell us that. And also say, hey, we're also still looking for some big time players. That's okay too. Tell us that too. Yeah. Give us info. That's what we're talking about.
SMC Ultra asking about Junior Moreno. Junior Moreno is still, negotiate. He's been offered a contract with DC United. DC United, because they offered it, still control his rights. He was training with Ulysses Segura in Austin with a Costa Rican trainer. That who knows what that means? It could mean nothing. But I've heard nothing about Junior coming back to DC United. So that's still on the table. Defensive midfield still is a question. There was a report, Ryan Martin interview, talking about Jeremy Gray maybe not being available for Loudoun very much, which means that potentially he is playing for DC United. So that might be an effort to backfill.
And the youth movement in DC has gotten a lot better. I think there's a lot more buzz for DC United youth players now than there has been in a long time. I feel like for players. So maybe this is the direction the team wants to go. And honestly, I'm for it.
We're okay with that. Whatever it is.
If we can get to the point, if we can get to the point where we're making a Ricardo Pepi type sale for $20 million, that'd be incredible. Yep. And that would make news. That would make news in DC. And I think that would work here in DC because we do like sort of homegrown stars. We're a big market, but we appreciate Alex Ovechkin for the time. He basically grew up as a star here. You talk about, that's the only name that really comes to mind, I guess, right now. That's really coming to mind right now. But John Carlson, a lot of those guys from the Capitals I talk about. So I think that can work very well here in this city if that's what they want to do. Super Draft. We have the Super Draft. DC United traded away the 13th pick for $100K in allocation. a lot of people upset about that.
Don't
I ask you, everybody's like, well, you can still find talent. Yes, you can. You can. I think they held on. They wanted to see maybe a Generation Adidas guy kind of slips down. Maybe one of the goalkeepers, even though they're rumored to be signing. I think maybe they were thinking, well, maybe if a GA guy is sitting there, maybe we take him. But I think once that was gone, you're like, you know what? Take the $100,000. We trust who we have in our academy to come through. But they did make some signings. Some guys that are probably most likely vying for Loudoun United contracts.
They are for sure. They are for sure. I have heard, in fact, from someone close to Loudoun that one of these players is going to feature for Loudoun off the bat. So Skage Simonson, midfielder from SMU, 10 goals, 4 assists, and 27 appearances. 6'3". I noted that. He seems tall. He's going to take an international spot, so keep that in mind too. And Sofian Jafal, I'm guessing on that pronunciation. A midfielder out of Oregon State, 18 goals and 19 assists and 62 starts. Both have reported to training camp. Alex Nagy out of Vermont is not going to join until the summer. Midfielder, 8 goals, 16 assists. If I'm that guy, if I'm getting drafted at the tail end of the draft, I am also staying, getting my degree, and coming to Loudoun or wherever at the end of the summer, because there's no reason not to do it, man. You should get that degree and then come and see if it works out for you.
Yep. I think that is very much what we're seeing. The talk of coaches leaving DC. One former player is at least staying on as coach, and that's Frederick Brilliant. And I'd almost forgotten that because there's been some moves about some other coaches leaving from Pablo Maurer, which I think is sort of it's kind of one of those things that just, it pops up, probably has nothing to do with any sort of issue or situation at DC. At least I don't think. There's nothing.
Zach Thornton was on an expiring contract. It's been talked about since Hernan came in that they were going to keep Thornton and Chad Ashton on through that last season, and then decide whether or not they were going to go forward. So that's all that was. There's been no announced replacement, but there's also only one goalie on the roster. So not really a super high priority at the exact moment. I'm sure they're going to have somebody in from somewhere, someone to help out quickly. But so congrats to Fred Brilliant for making the move. He got his B license last year, same as Felipe. So way to sort of move into that next part of his career. And also congrats to Matt Arrington, who's been promoted to the director of coaching for the DC United Academy and was also going to remain the U15 coach. So that's there have been some hires on the academy side too. So I'm excited to see as the pipeline continues to feed Loudoun United, which then feeds DC United. That was the goal with this whole thing, and it's starting to work better than it has in the past.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that a lot. Before we go to break, and we definitely don't want to make it seem like this is a small issue at all, but definitely want to send our condolences to King CJ, who is our DC United's EMLS player, who suffered racist comments during his last EMLS game. The team has come out and made a statement. EMLS has come out and made a statement. Actually, despicable things that took place there. We had King CJ on our show. He's an awesome guy, huge DC United fan. I will say he predicted Kevin Paredes' rise this season. He called that right at the beginning of the year. So an awesome guy, excellent guy. Really sorry that he had to go through that. And I wish him all the best as he continues being DC's awesome EMLS player, where he's been dominating. From what I've heard. So awesome. Great stuff from him.
Not great stuff from the commentary.
Yeah, not great stuff from the commentary, but it's just awful. All right, folks, I think that's going to do it. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to get into some Washington Spirit. So stick around. You're listening to the RFK Refugees Podcast. We're back. RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, John here. We're talking Washington Spirit. You just saw an awesome goal from Paige Nielsen last season from our Twitch live stream. Really hoping they bring back that action for 2022, so we can get back in on that. That was tons of fun. If you guys didn't see it, go check it out. Still a lot of fun to watch. It's like a dip back in time.
It's our best. It's our only clips that were worth anything from Twitch. There are a couple of clips from there that are pretty funny, so check those out.
Yep. But we have a whole Washington Spirit saga to discuss. Crazy Washington Spirit saga that just gets crazier by the minute. I am eagerly looking forward to the 30 for 30 in 5 to 10 minutes, or the secret base video in some capacity. I'm not sure where it would fall under their little videos. But
and also the
like
day that this podcast comes out, tomorrow, Tuesday, there's going to be a major development on this news. So listen to this early in the morning, folks. As soon as you see this hit your podcast stream, listen to it.
Yeah, so let's start. We can kind of. I think everybody here, maybe listening, is at least somewhat aware of what's going on. Let's start with. I guess it was about a week and a half ago, somewhere around then. I'm trying to remember It's all flown by very quickly, but basically, we were all kind of prepared for Todd Boehly. And the other owner whose name I can't remember, basically taking over Washington. I think they're also partnered with the St. James. Yep. Basically, we all prepared for that announcement. That it happened. It was done. It was over. It was a group. Sorry, I have it right here. I have Jennifer Tepper Maxkey.
No.
McCassie?
Don't matter because she's not on the team anymore.
We don't know. But it's a whole group of investors, including the St. James. They said they had met with the players and the fans, including the Rose Room Collective and the Spirit Squadron both dispute this. Very curious to know what fans they met with, if that's the case.
I think they just asked to meet with fans, and then the fans. So from my understanding, what happened was there was a request to meet all of those groups. There was no follow-up on that. There was nothing set up. There were no dates set, conversations had. And then basically they just reported out. They're like, oh, yeah, we talked with the fans. And that, like, sending an email is talking with them, like, even if there's no response. So that's where sort of the disconnect came through on what happened with that. So good try, I guess, but didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, didn't work. I think they actually did meet with the players, and the players apparently came away unimpressed from what I heard with the whole situation. I mean, I think also it's very hard to come in, and that has to be an awesome sales technique when you've been advocating for months that they should sell to Michelle, and then here this other owners group comes in. And I really do think that had an impact. When you're trying to buy an asset or you're trying to buy an organization with employees. Are you really going to want to deal with an organization of people who are mad at you already as soon as you walk in the door, who are not going to be happy with you, particularly players that you can't necessarily just let go of and replace easily? No. And I think they underestimated the toxicity that is the ownership situation right now. And yeah, any prevailing thoughts? Do you want to go into the next big thing that dropped?
No, I think talking about
you dropped the news that this was a done deal.
Yeah, that's what everyone had sort of had came to that conclusion based on how they had positioned themselves. But then everything changed over the course of 24 hours.
Yes, basically 24 hours. Essentially, Michelle Kang acquired 52% of the voting shares of the team. She convinced 8 other owners. Again, we are not ownership, financial, legal experts. We are not privy to financial news. None of us have these skills. But basically, she took some owners who I guess had debt in the team. Told them to turn into.
They bought debt notes last year. Steve Baldwin was hemorrhaging money on the team. The team was costing, particularly through the coronavirus, through COVID. A bunch of new investors bought that debt and were holding that for a lower payoff. Basically, when you hold debt on something like this, you're hoping for a single-digit percentage payback. It's like a savings bond, basically. Although they were also offered in their agreement when they bought the debt to turn those shares of debt into equity shares in the team. Michelle Kang convinced them to do that. And the biggest change here was that Devin Talbot, who is the CEO of what's the name of the group? It's the jersey sponsor. It's an equity hedge fund.
Telebridge,
yeah. It's an equity hedge fund that people were. It's funny because everyone was like, "This guy is the absolute worst," and maybe he still is. But he sold his shares straight to Michelle Kang which enabled her to get that upper hand in the percentage. And she got the rest of the debt holders who converted to just basically say, I'm on board with what Michelle wants to do with the team. And also, we're very excited about your $35 million offer that you're still going to make for the team, because then that makes my equity shares worth even more than they were before. So it was a great way to get people on your side, is saying, if you don't get on my side, you'll make X dollars. But if you get on my side, you'll make X plus Y dollars. And the Y is pretty big. So it was a pretty great move. No one saw this coming.
Yeah, no one saw this coming. I mean, this is about as close to like a hostile takeover as you can get. But apparently, not all is rosy. I think some of us kind of thought, oh, this is it. Like, this is the gauntlet. Like, she now owns 52% of the club. She owns a controlling share. Not so fast. Apparently now the NWSL has decided to show, wait a minute, hold on. We're not sure if these owners have been properly vetted for the team. And in fact, apparently, we all know from the Alex Ovechkin, ownership buy that he hasn't actually paid anything. There's a lot of stuff that was maybe not as well done about what Steve Baldwin did with these ownership shares.
But then also the league, that's a failure on the league too.
Yeah.
So that is another reason why they should just sort of let this go, because the fact that this is not above board and the paperwork isn't right, kind of on them. So maybe they should just let it go and then get it straight afterwards. I don't know. That'd be my advice.
We'll see. We'll see. This is. There's going to be another news drop. Obviously, this was the holiday weekend, so probably no one around. They're going to meet. Apparently, both Steve Baldwin and Michelle Kang are going to meet with the league. Stephen Bank, who's a law professor who covers soccer, says the fact that both Baldwin and Kang have been invited to address the NWSL Board of Governors suggests that either Baldwin contests that Kang has legally secured control of the Spirit, or the league could disregard the change of control altogether. So he is a little bit negative on this idea that they're both meeting. I think this is high stakes. I think the league is in. They are either opening themselves up from a lawsuit directly from Baldwin, which I think will most certainly, if this goes Kang's way, will be coming. This will absolutely be coming from Steve Baldwin. On the flip side, if they don't, make things good with Michelle Kang, maybe another. I mean, now basically, Michelle Kang has said, "Look, I have acquired 52%. I have turned these shares. I own the controlling stakes. If they still say nope, it still goes to Steve Baldwin to sell the club. He's still we do not approve of this. Then you're opening yourself up to a lawsuit from Michelle Kang. So there are going to be lawsuits at the end of this, regardless of wherever this goes, in my opinion. And it's going to get nasty, and we can only hope it goes the way we want it to go, and the league is able to survive it. It's really funny that basically after so many years, there is still now an ownership controversy that is basically going to be a little bit different flavor of an ownership controversy, but an ownership controversy involving a team either from Washington or formerly from Washington that is pending a lawsuit with the league.
And could tank the league. Depending on how this lawsuit goes, there are there's legal arguments to make for anything, right? But I think particularly in this case, like either from Steve Baldwin's side, I have controlling ownership stake. I can sell this to whoever I want. The people who are contesting against this are either paper owners or they are not the majority shareholders. And the way that our system is set up, I can do whatever I want. I don't have to sell to the highest bid if I don't want to, because free country, I guess. But Michelle Kang's point is that just from a perspective of, she's on the side of logic, right? The higher bid is the best for the team, the best for the league. The fact that she has done the maneuvering she has done in the last week shows that there's a buy-in on her strategy and how she wants to do this. She's also apparently, I don't have it in front of me, she's recruiting additional Washington area businesswomen to join the ownership group, the potential ownership group, sort of saying that I am going to give you the opportunity to be what you say you want this to be. I'm going to give you a local, female-led, women of color. We're doing all these things that you have said that you are going to be about as a league, and sort of elevating voices and giving people opportunities to have a seat at the table that they don't have in other sports leagues. I'm going to give you that opportunity, and all you have to do is say, "Yep, you are right. You own the team," and for the price of that, Steve Baldwin gets to get overpaid for his shares. So even when he loses, he wins. He still owns, what is it? Was it 31%, 32%, along with Bill Lynch, with that $35 million bid that comes in from Michelle Kang. He's going to make a whole bunch of money. He's going to come out ahead on this. It's just a question of, when is enough? What does he hope to gain by this? It becomes completely about his pride and about his ego if he moves forward with this, because the ownership, the league owners should look down on this because it hurts team valuation. The fans will look very, very poorly on this as it continues to get more and more oxygen about what the actual things that went on were and what the conversations were. Fans on the whole are going to be completely against this ownership group, even worse than they were this year. So to me, the best case scenario for him is for Michelle to buy this team, buy him out, spend his money elsewhere, go do something else. Because there's nothing good for him here. There's no way he comes out better than the amount of money that Michelle Kang's going to pay him for 33% of the team.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you also have to look at the impact that this is going to have on the players. I don't know like how much of this is actually related, but the 5th overall pick for the Orlando Pride, Mia Fishel, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce that, player from UCLA, signed with Tigres, rebooked NWSL, and the fact that she was the 5th overall pick and went and signed down at Liga MX Femenil.
For more money,
for more money, yes, and I think that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
NWSL is still probably the top women's league, professional league in the world, but it's getting some stiff competition. You look at the Barcelona-Real Madrid women's game, sold out the Camp Nou. Sold out the Camp Nou.
82,000 seats.
82,000 seats for that game. You'll watch the Liga MX Female final last winter, last December. Amazing crowd at that game. The rest of the world is starting to wake up and starting to see the value of this, and that's going to make it a lot harder it's already been a little bit harder for the NWSL to keep players. They are not the only game in town. So that's another thing to consider as ownership messes do have a downward effect. People hear about this. People say, wow, this league's a mess. Like, look, their owners, they can't even allow this person who clearly has the best player's interest in heart. Instead, they're going to keep the control with somebody who very clearly did not for all those years. Why would I go play in this league? Why would I go spend my time in this league? I'm out. Like, I'm going to go sign somewhere else. Where also, like, as playing in the college game, which is probably one of the top women's developmental leagues in the world, I can make way more money because I'm going to get more money because my talent is recognized. So
I think the NWSL is in trouble. I think they have squandered a lead here. They have. I'm trying to think of what's the Super Bowl the big lead given up to the Patriots. Whatever that is, that's what this is. Here's the challenge: teams in Europe are so flush. Many of them, not all of them, many of them are so flush with money that they can throw weight around to a scale that the NWSL can't even pretend to do, and it will not affect their balance sheets. These are marginal increases in cost for them, and they open up an entire new audience that they didn't have before, and they don't even have to really stretch too hard. The NWSL financially is in a much rougher place. They don't have, they have the agreement with CBS, but that agreement is most about access, or most about visibility. It's not about money. They're not making a bunch of money from this deal. It's about making sure that they're available to be seen on CBS, and every game is on TV. It is easy for these to sort of like the women's branch of these major men's teams are going to eat NWSL's lunch, and there's little they can do about it because they're not capitalized to the extent where they can fight it, and the business itself is not strong enough to justify spending that money. So the only thing you can do is have people that don't care, ownership groups that do not care about deficit spending to keep their best players, or you can have more shenanigans with the U.S. women's national team not allowing players to play internationally, which I think they'll probably come back and do that again. I think that will be the fix. But I think it's just a matter of time. I really do. I don't think there's anything they can do about it.
The biggest thing propping the NWSL up at this point was the fact that everywhere else in the world just did not care about their women's teams. They had them, they existed, but they were not investing the amount of money. Now they're seeing the investment. And a lot of it came from a lot of these women's teams, particularly England. I think England had that huge run in the Women's World Cup that sparked interest. Hey, look, there's a whole untapped market here. We can, and we have money. It doesn't matter to us. I mean, we're not beholden to financial fair play regulations for that. So let's put the money in. Chelsea started doing it. Arsenal has done it for years. PSG has started to do it. Lyon owns a team in Seattle. So I mean, a whole NWSL team. And now Mexico especially is starting to really put money into that. Tigres is one of the best women's teams in the world. I think they could be very, very competitive in WSL. Probably be one of the top teams in the whole league, and hopefully we'll get to see them play in the International Championship. Man, I want some games to watch. Can we get some actual games to watch? But
so to prove my point, I'm looking at I think the intention with this Twitter account is not positive, but basically what it does is it charts WSL attendances. So that's the women's league in England, and on an average week, we're looking at 1,500 people for 10 games, 5 games, 6 games. So they're able to spend this money without having the finances from the women's side support it, right? So they're able to make these signings even though they're drawing 1,500, 2,000 people. Doesn't make a difference. It's still going to be an overall positive for them. So that's the difference, right? And NWSL needs income, needs revenue to justify expense because they're independent business. Particularly now that they are now completely independent from U.S. soccer. They're standing on their own 2 feet. So that is it's like they have a lot more bullets than we do. We're fighting a war. They have unlimited ammo, and we're just picking up unused bullets on the ground. That's the situation that we're in. So I don't want to get too far in forecasts on NWSL, but this is so. I guess I would say it's very important to support your NWSL franchise, even if they've made it very hard for you to do so in the last couple years. You're sort of trapped in a bad situation, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody who's like, you know what, if this doesn't go the way that we all hear on the show, everyone who is not Steve Baldwin and maybe some other associated people want this to go. Almost 99% of the population that knows this story wants this to go to Michelle Kang. If this doesn't go that way, I'm not going to sit here and tell somebody, oh, you have to support, you have to back the spirit, you have to. There's other. You know what? There are other options. There are going to be other options in the DC area coming up. DC United also launching a women's side. Hopefully that is well run. That is always the caveat, but I mean it does exist out there. So I'm not going to sit here and tell somebody, oh, you have to do it. You just have to do your duty to do that, because frankly, NWSL hasn't earned it in years. And we're hearing also the news coming out of the Portland supporters and all that's been going on. It's been a mess. It's been a mess.
Give a quick version of that for the folks who maybe don't know about it.
Yeah, so I know the bit of the highlights. I've read a little bit about it. Basically, the supporters are not happy about, of course, the situation with Paul O'Reilly and everything that sort of came from there. And they basically had said sort of been having regular meetings with the ownership, and the ownership basically stopped doing that. In fact, they called out, I think it was the 107th or something like that, 107 First. I forget what they're called. One of the supporters groups basically said, you guys need more diversity of thought. And that was what they called them out for. Until that happens, we're not going to meet with you.
That is a Merritt Paulson ass tweet. If I have ever heard one in my life. Yeah. So
it's crazy. It's the same argument that, having a group that, I don't know. It's disgusting. It's awful. It's an awful way to treat fans who, and people have rightly pointed out, Portland helped build MLS. Mm-hmm. Portland played a major role. Those atmospheres
2.0 anyway.
When
right?
they came in, when they came in, Seattle was there as well, but Portland was the first one to kind of do it and really create an atmosphere that felt different than going to all due intents and purposes, Seattle still does a really good job. I'm not saying that. They have excellent fan support, but it still felt like it was in an NFL stadium. This was a team that owned their stadium that was only going to be used for Portland Timbers soccer or Portland Thorns soccer. And they built in WSL too. They created great atmospheres for that team. And to kind of say like, well, we're actually good enough. And they probably look at the season ticket numbers. They say, oh, well, we're still well above our goal. And probably they're right because, again, Twitter sometimes doesn't represent, the full. And the people that tweet, oh, I'm done with my season tickets and then end up buying the season tickets.
Was that the nutmeg news today? It was like,
yeah,
Portland Timbers fan writes "F you" in the memo as he signs his $2,700 check to the Portland Timbers for season tickets.
But to that point, I mean, they keep going down this route. I mean, the atmosphere, they might sell those season tickets. They might get those season tickets in, but they're not going to be as engaged. The atmosphere is going to go down. Look only to up north in Landover, Maryland, about how bad treating fans and ownership can go and how much it can wilt what was one of the best fan bases in the NFL.
Yep.
For a team with a racist name, but still to the point, they had a great fan base who supported that team, and that is all completely wilted away into almost nothing up there. And that's what years of bad ownership, years of not paying attention to fans can do. It's not going to happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight for the Washington football team. It took years and years and years, and then eventually it kind of just broke, and suddenly it was awful. So
we have said this for soccer in this country. Owners may not like what their fans say. They may not even like their fans. They may think that they are whatever. Maybe they don't agree with their politics. Maybe they don't agree with their things the way they do things. But there are not replacement soccer fans sitting on the sidelines ready to hop in when ownership no longer listens to these voices. Yeah. There's no backup. So whether you like it or not, if you want to continue as a business in this country, you have to do what the people who pay your existence want you to do. That's just the way it goes. Yeah. That's business. So good luck with this, Portland. It's a strategy that will not work.
Yep. All right, folks. I think that's going to do it for today. Hopefully, we're going to have some more positive news to talk about. Kane's going to take the ownership. DC's going to sign 3 designated players, 2 designated players, something to that effect. Hopefully, we're going to have some positive news to talk about, some signings, some actual tangible things. Be patient, everybody. Take a breather, relax. It's January 17th. We still have some time, so to speak, until the season starts. Training camp has just begun. Everybody just take a breath. Go see family. Go enjoy the outdoor air. Get off the Discord chat. Get off the Twitterverse.
But keep listening to podcasts.
Yes, but listen to our show and then do those things. There you go. That's what you do. Download our show, listen to our show, then do. If you made it to the end of the show, you already did that, so thank you. All right, guys. We will catch you guys next week. Vamos.